When growth stalls, most leaders reach for surface fixes like new campaigns, a sharper sales deck, even new hires. But the real issues are often deeper, such as misaligned systems, broken handoffs, or unreliable data. That's why we built the Growth Readiness Score. In just 5 minutes, you'll get a clear score across 4 critical areas of your revenue operations and see how you stack up against your peers with benchmark data. Tap the link in the show notes to get started. It's quick, insightful, and often reveals issues leaders don't expect.
Well, since I'm a RevOps strategist, I think it's only smart that we start with the RevOps roles because that's where I'm the most interested, and I hope everyone else is too.
Love it, love it. So, and since RevOps champions, right, we should start
Exactly.
there. The unification theme fits this role perfectly, right? When you're talking about RevOps, it's about aligning your people, process, data, and technology. We say that on the show all the time. And all of the releases at Inbound this year really just reinforce that. So I want to highlight a few of the releases that I think will be interesting for leaders in this role. One of the big updates that's coming out is Operations Hub is transforming into Data Hub. It's a name change, but it's also going to have more capabilities. Operations Hub was really that RevOps hero kind of to align all the systems. It is a much more technical hub compared to others. With this release, there's going to be a bit more ease of use and like a more user-friendly interface for the less technical people on teams. And then they're also rolling out Data Studio within this. So it's going to give you the ability to directly connect to spreadsheets, apps, like your data warehouses and things like that. It's going to cut down on time migrating either with integrations or manual data. It's really going to help you connect all your systems, clean your data more accurately, and then continue to automate more of your complex processes.
You're listening to RevOps Champions, a podcast created for B2B leaders to help you align your people, streamline your processes, trust your data, and leverage technology in order to grow your business.
Welcome to RevOps Champions. I am not your host, Brendan Denwell. I'm filling in as he's at Inbound. My name's Alise Kostick. I'm a RevOps strategist at Denamico, joined by marketing director Schaffran, and we're here today to talk to you about all the new releases that are coming out this week at Inbound.
Thank you, Alise. So we just took a quick dive through everything that came out on the main stage. As usual, it's like 200 plus updates. So we are just today combing through like the highlights, the first things that we feel like people need to know as you start walking through these releases and seeing what might be a good fit for you at your organization. I think first we should start with a quick recap of kind of how we got here a bit. So last year at Inbound 2024, and just before, HubSpot released a new easy, fast, and unified slogan. Last year, it was a lot about Breeze AI. We saw an acquisition of Cashflow last year for an updated CPQ in HubSpot. A lot of focus on Breeze Intelligence and a lot of that like updating of records, a lot of integration of AI throughout the platform. And then a huge focus on agent AI as well, like through Dart Mesh and things like that. These are just all things to kind of keep in mind as we start going through the updates, because this year the release is really around that third piece of the slogan, the unified messaging. And so kind of feels like through the last year, they've really just been building upon this release after release. And this year, it's really about unifying all the data in your CRM and in one place across teams. A lot of organizations have about 20% of their customer data, and about 80% of it is living in kind of this unstructured data. So your call transcripts, your emails, service tickets, and things like that. You'll see a lot of things that we talk about today and in this update overall that are really about that unification, and HubSpot really becoming the platform that's doing that by default, and where everyone across all of your teams, and regardless of what hub they're in, they're seeing that same customer data, but in like a different view and how it makes sense for them and how they can apply it to their role. But that's a lot of what we're going to focus on today, is that unification piece. And it's less about like which hub each team lives in and more about how they view that data. And it's really more about the customer too, and kind of following that journey all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Way to jam pack a week's worth of knowledge into 20 minutes here.
That's right.
Yeah. And when you see the releases, they'll generally be broken down into Hub and where they fit into HubSpot overall as a product. But we thought it would make more sense today to kind of walk through how each role within your organization can leverage HubSpot, because although people are operating in the same hub, they might be using it a little differently. So I think it's best if we break it down role by role over hub by hub, as some of the releases do cover multiple pieces of the platform.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a good episode too. We're going to put as much as we can in the show notes. So we'll definitely link to the overall fall spotlight and all the information there. And then we'll do our best. Any documentation that's available to this, we'll link to that. So you can kind of always go back and reference. There'll be a lot more to dive into it. And I'm sure as we get into each piece of this with clients here at Denamico, we'll have more episodes kind of deep diving into all the specific use cases and things for these.
For sure. Well, since I'm a RevOps strategist, I think it's only smart that we start with the RevOps roles, because that's where I'm the most interested, and I hope everyone else is too.
Yeah, love it, love it. So, and since RevOps champions, right, we should start there.
Exactly.
So obviously, I think the unification theme fits this role perfectly, right? When you're talking about RevOps, it's about aligning your people, process, data, and technology. We say that on the show all the time. And all of the releases at Inbound this year really just reinforce that. So I want to highlight a few of the releases that I think will be interesting for leaders in this role. So one of the big updates that's coming out is Operations Hub is transforming into Data Hub. So it's a name change, but it's also going to have more capabilities. Operations Hub was really that RevOps hero kind of to align all the systems. It is a much more technical hub compared to others. So with this release, there's going to be a bit more ease of use and like a more user-friendly interface for the less technical people on teams. And then they're also rolling out Data Studio within this. So it's going to give you the ability to directly connect to spreadsheets, apps, like your data warehouses and things like that. So it's going to cut down on time migrating either with integrations or manual data. It's really going to help you connect all your systems, clean your data more accurately, and then continue to automate more of your complex processes. And then within this too, there's a new data quality feature. So there have been some elements of this within HubSpot already to help with things like formatting and duplicates, but this is going to kind of take it to a different level where there'll be a cleaner dashboard view and you can quickly see formatting and duplicate issues. And there's also a new ability to set up like custom deduplication rules and things on certain records. So you can set up exactly how you want to do that. So you don't have to worry about things being deduped that you don't want to. You can opt to review those, but you can also kind of let those types of things run in the background of your system. So you're not spending manual time on that. The other thing I mentioned, the acquisition of cash flow. So here at Inbound, we're seeing the first real integration of what that means for HubSpot. So they're releasing a new CPQ in Commerce Hub. This is in public beta, so anyone who's interested in this will still need to opt in, but it's really going to improve that quote creation, deal closing, any approval issues that you have, or maybe you're invoicing in a different system. You can run that through workflows and things in HubSpot, and then just makes that payment so much easier from the customer end. So obviously we know a lot of organizations run into blockers here when you're actually trying to collect payment at the end. So this should improve things both for teams and for customers. The one thing I would say is this first iteration sounds like it's going to be better for smaller teams and organizations with a simpler product catalog. So 200 or less employees and 100 SKUs or less. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see this change and scale in the future, but just something to think about as far as who this might be the right fit for. It's not going to be right for, manufacturers, people with like more complex products and SKU builds. But I do think they're probably putting together a lot of that infrastructure on the back end that we may be able to leverage for that in the future. A couple other things here. The Smart CRM is a new update and insights. And so this, we'll talk more in detail within the specific roles, but it's really the pieces of this is allowing you to see all the same customer data in multiple views across the team. So sales can see what they need, service can see what they need. It's much more customized in just literal different format views. You can automatically enrich data, so there's more options for there. And then there's more, the insights are more analysis and alerts so that you can see any changes on accounts, risks, or opportunities. So I think there's a lot of different scenarios where sales could use something like that as a client is moving through the pipeline. Service could certainly use something like that when there's changes on an account that they need to be aware of as they're moving through. So something that can be used across all of the teams. And then, of course, we can't have releases without AI in 2025. So there's definitely updates to Breeze. So Breeze Copilot is also getting a bit of a rebrand to Breeze Assistants. And so now within HubSpot, there will be assistants and agents. And I think probably the thing that stood out to me the most is the ability to actually train these now in HubSpot. So you can manage and customize them in something that's coming out called Breeze Studio. So you can kind of teach how you want them to function, train them more up in your language and documentation and things like that. And so it's just going to become a lot more customized, like what you would have in a chat GPT or another external tool. And I think HubSpot realized people were still leaving the CRM to use all of those external LLMs. And again, this just gives you everything, unifying it in one place where you can combine all of that, first party data and all the information you have about your client with that in a safer manner too.
I'm never going to have to leave HubSpot.
I think that's the goal. We're getting there.
Well, let's take it back to why HubSpot all started and look at what came out for the marketing hub and for marketers to kind of use as HubSpot's little bread and butter and what they started with. I feel like they got some cool advances coming for the marketing teams out there.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so we're starting with your role and my role. So marketing, of course, I have to be excited about what's coming out and ready to test that. So Marketing Studio is new, and this is another one that is in public beta. And I would just note that there are elements within this that are related to the AI tools and features in HubSpot. So if you're looking for this and you're unable to find it, it may have something to do with your AI settings. So just know, we'll put a note for this in the show notes as well, but you will need to give users access to that in your platform. But the studio is kind of an continuation. It feels like the marketing journeys that were released this spring, where there's a bit more visualization in the tool. So as a marketer, I love that. It's a bit of more of a whiteboard where instead of just creating your campaigns or creating your emails, you can actually plan and draft them. So you can view an entire campaign or entire customer journey. You can add sticky notes. You can have comments and communicate back and forth with your team. You can see, is an email in draft? Is it scheduled? Has it sent? Anything that has gone out will show you high-level performance metrics in there. And then you can just click right through to any of your assets that are planned in the studio for that campaign and revise them and make quick changes. So I think this is going to be an interesting way to pull together, your campaigns, your journeys, and then maybe any planning that you're doing in like an outside project management or whiteboarding tool. So this should be, I think, a fun one to play around with and just kind of help tie the entire customer journey together a bit more. And it should be an easier way to communicate with other teams what are happening as well, right? So a lot of times you get questions from sales or from service, like what's going out to customers? When do they get this? What does this look like? This will let you create a quick visualization that you can share with other teams as well.
I like that.
Yeah. And then within this, of course, any campaign or anything that you're putting together, you're going to need segments. You're going to need some personalization. So HubSpot has some updates to this as well. It looks like the segments are going to be a little bit easier to build. This is basically becoming a new iteration of your lists in marketing space. So it's going to have a cleaner interface, improved and/or logic, which I know personally I'm excited about. And then you'll also be able to compare segment performance. If you're running paid ads, anything that you build in these segments, you can connect with ad platforms and send it that way. There will also be something called clusters within these segments where it's kind of combining any key properties that you'd use to make a list or a segment with also their engagement level. And the idea here is to identify people with a higher probability of converting just based on how they're engaging with you. So I think a lot of things that are just a little bit easier out of the box and not having to build things step by step. And then the other piece of this with personalization is it's essentially a feature that looks to me a lot like the landing page section in HubSpot, but it's personalization. So based on site visits, based on segments. So you can really change and make the content on that page dynamic based on whatever you're seeing in the segment. This could be awesome for industry pages and things like that. That's just a simple example where you could pull through specifics to them, either based on their CRM data, based on their site visits and things like that. And then you can see and compare those pages. And then there's also an AI element of this that will recommend changes for you and like show you the performance as well. So it's a bit of a combination of landing pages, A/B testing, and that personalization all in one piece. And then the last thing that's coming out also in public beta, but something to watch here is an AI email feature. So again, this is kind of a visual one for some of the marketers. If you're migrating also to HubSpot from another email platform, this is one to watch for because you can upload HTML emails and things like that, and it'll generate your emails for you. So any templates that you need to migrate are going to become a lot easier. And then there's also some new optimization options within this. So both at the campaign and the contact level, you can optimize the send time. Right now, a lot of that is just limited to time zone. So this is going to be much more personalized to help with engagement and your open and click rates there. And then the engagement optimization is becoming a little less black and white as well. So today it's kind of they're not engaged, you want to exclude them, or they're highly engaged, right? So you're going to have least engaged, moderate to high, and then high engagement. So you could use this both to improve your open rates, or you want to run re-engagement campaigns with people who are maybe in that middle and you want to move them back to high engagement. And then it'll also detect kind of your performance too. So anything that's a bit of an anomaly when you're looking in the hub, you'll see that indicated in kind of like red or green. So it just kind of a little alert to help you dig more into the data that you have.
I'm excited about those, especially for the new clients coming on with old marketing systems. It'd be nice to get their emails over and make it feel somewhat similar, but in a better tool.
Yes. And that takes such a long time. I've definitely done that in other roles, and that is not a quick migration. So
No, now it is, thankfully.
now it is. Thanks, HubSpot.
Okay, maybe we should show some love to our sales team members out there with their new releases as well.
Yes, let's do it. So I will say for exactly in the Sales Hub, there are only 2 specific releases. I will touch on those really quickly, but I think the things that are going to benefit and maybe be of the most interest to sales fall more within the smart CRM and then, some of the AI features within that as well. So within Sales Hub, there are some updates to the prospecting agent. So if you've been exploring that or wanting to explore that, now would be a good time. You can put a few more guardrails around that agent. For example, you could already create outreach and review that, but there are more specific time and day settings, language settings that you can put on there. So if you are doing any kind of international outreach, there's multiple languages within that now. And so it's a good thing to explore, but it's not a major shift. It's just kind of refinement of that agent from what I was seeing. And then meeting notes are also available now in HubSpot. So I know everyone probably already has their favorite AI note taker. If you don't already, definitely explore this one. And if you do, like, why not just give it a try and see, especially if for whatever reason you haven't already integrated your note taker and into HubSpot or your CRM. This is a good one to test. And again, when we talk about all that unstructured data, this is going to be a huge piece of where that comes from. So having all your meeting notes in there, I think you'll start to see a big shift from that and how it starts filling in the CRM. And on a related note to that, then, the 2 big updates within the CRM about the whole smart CRM setup and then also the self-generating data in the CRM. So we'll start with self-generating data since I just kind of alluded to that with the call notes and everything. So Essentially, this is what in the CRM is going to start pulling information from all these unstructured places in your CRM. So, a couple examples of how this might be used is information in someone's email signature. Let's say you're speaking with a client, you haven't actually gone through and filled in their title or their location or maybe their phone number. Today so much is done over email and Zoom and Slack channels and things like that. So when it really comes time, if something escalates, you realize you don't actually have a way to pick up the phone and call this person. So now you don't have to worry about that. All this data will start being pulled into contact records. This will also pull in even things like auto responses. So if you're trying to get in touch with someone who's out on vacation, can set up a field where it'll say, oh, here's when they're returning to office, so you can resume follow-up with those people. And then it can also pull in even backup contacts from email. So if they say, hey, I'm out of office, reach out to this person instead. Maybe you haven't had contact with them yet. It gives you another contact at the company to kind of pull in and just continue to build that relationship and have a backup outreach as well. I think all of that data, no one likes to sit around and pull that information through or wonder how to get a hold of someone. So I think that will really help support sales and in prospecting and getting people through that pipeline. And then in the smart CRM as well, maybe it's just me again because I'm a marketer, but there's new views coming in the smart CRM. So right now, we all just have kind of the standard table view. They're going to be coming out with Kanban boards, charts. There'll be some timeline, which I anticipate will be kind of a Gantt view that's coming out, and then as well as a map. And so I think for sales, this could be really interesting for like territory planning or identifying new opportunities in specific regions, planning events. We've actually had some clients ask us about this specifically and like, how do we get this type of regional map view and find out where we have a presence, where we have the opportunity to grow. So it sounds like something like this is going to be available in the new Smart CRM view and really help target that outreach and growth opportunities.
We just had to wait. Just had to wait. Now I can give all my clients the answer they've been looking for.
Have people been asking you for this too?
Yeah, especially when it comes to like territory planning and bringing on new reps. I think that's where it really makes an impact of like, oh, we're really busy in these regions. But when they're looking at kind of just their quotas overall, they might not know like, oh, we're gaining traction here. We're not here.
Mhm.
Is this an anomaly that we're hitting over quota every single quarter versus like our reps just doing a really good job? So I think it'll help show why they're making money where they're making money, and then also show maybe you don't need to spend as much time in certain regions on a sales side.
Absolutely. That's such a good point because when you have all the information, it's equally where you should spend your time and where you shouldn't, right? And maybe you've just been spinning your wheels on some things that you should drop. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and probably saves them from looking at some spreadsheets a little longer than they want to.
I mean, a map is just so much more enjoyable than a spreadsheet, I think.
Exactly. Okay, last but not least, we can't leave out Service Hub.
Service. Okay. So these last couple that I was going to highlight for service, I think just keep everyone in mind for this, and particularly sales. I think there's some overlap between the benefit of these two, but there is a new data agent, and that's another one of the big releases here this fall. This agent is really going to work across the smart CRM, through workflows and through Data Studio. And it's going to analyze all that data, both in your actual CRM fields and all the unstructured data in calls and emails, documents. It can search the web as well. So instead of manually researching prospects or equally, doing that for someone that you're working through a support case with, you can see all of this summarized at the company or the contact level. So this is just really going to help, I think, build those stronger relationships and just understand what's happening at the account level. And then kind of a next piece of this is in the smart insights part of the CRM. So there's going to be new catch-up cards on each contact record. It's going to surface things like customer sentiment, any kind of performance shifts and insight there. So again, that can just help any customer service reps stay ahead of issues, reduce time that they're spending on manually reviewing every email in a case. And I think we've already seen through information that HubSpot has put out that this type of thing has been saving service teams a lot of time. So this is just another iteration on that type of output that we have. So less time reviewing that and more time actually talking with the customer after reviewing those smart insights.
Sweet.
Love it.
So if I want to learn all about this, Sophie, are you sending this in a newsletter?
You know it. How could
Are
I
you
not? So
this tomorrow?
I am, yes. So obviously, this was a really quick highlight. Like we said, hundreds of releases. This was just a really quick highlight of what to focus on for each role, but I'll have a deeper breakdown and then links to all the resources. So if you're not already subscribed, it's a great time to do it. Of course, we'll post that on the website as well, and then I'll link that in the show notes. So if you're listening to this a few days later and you're not, quite as excited about inbound as all of us HubSpot focused folks are, you can catch that later and find it easily.
Well, thanks for the rundown, and maybe we'll be back taking over for Brendan again. Otherwise, he'll be back next week.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Alise.
Thank you.
Bye.